everybody, and welcome to another Alchemy Guide. Today, we're going to be going over everything you need to know as a player, whether it be just starting out and signing up, or going all the way into how to play a game. Either your GM has sent you here, or perhaps curiosity got the better of you. Either way, we're going to go ahead and jump right in and learn how to use Alchemy. Let's go. So first things first, you need to make an Alchemy account, and it is free to use as a player and as a GM. You get some added benefits if you do use or purchase the Alchemy Unlimited, which means that you can make more than 3 characters, you can have more than one custom universe, and you can play in more than 3 games simultaneously. For right now, we're just going to use our free account because we're ready to play, and or our GM has already sent us a link to play. So all you need to do is enter in your email, a username, and a password. And then once you do that and click you agree, and you click this little arrow here at the bottom, it's going to go ahead and log you directly into Alchemy. The reason we need an account is just so that we can tie things like characters and stuff like that to you so that you don't lose them once you exit out the game. Now, as you can see on the left side, we have the home screen. We have our library, which is our own personal library of games that we're in or characters that we've created. Then we have content universes. This is if you want to create your own custom universe with any kind of purchased content that you have. And then also the marketplace. So if you want to buy anything from our marketplace, such as modules, or perhaps you want to buy music or art or overlays or anything like that, you can do so in our marketplace. But what we're looking for is, of course, how to join a game. So there are actually 2 ways you can get invited to a game on Alchemy. The first one is getting a direct link from your GM. They will send you a link to your game. You just click the link and you will be automatically thrown into the game. The second way is that you have your GM add you through your username. The username that you just created in your account creation, you give that to your GM and they will add you to the game. If you are added to this game through a username versus the link, you're going to find your game under your library. So if you go to your library here and you haven't clicked into anything yet, it will pop up here. If you've entered into this game before, let's say, for instance, we've entered into this game before, and we'll go ahead and back out here. It'll pop up right here under your recent game. So you don't even have to go looking for it. It'll just be here directly in your front page here on your homepage. By clicking into the game, you're brought into our kind of pre-game area. Now, before hopping into this game, I always preface going into your settings and setting up your account to make sure that you're good to go in every aspect. So, of course, we have our profile here. But we have our safety tab, which is important. So if you go over here and you see lines and veils, you can set up your own safety tags just in case whenever you join a game, the GM will then have access to these and so will the players. And you can kind of set this up however you like. So if you have some lines and veils, so like, let's say, for instance, my line is, verbal abuse, like something like that. And then my veil would be something like spiders or just bugs in general. I can have these set up so that way when I join the game, everybody that looks at the safety tab will see that these are marked anonymously through the groups because everybody will be grouped together and their safety tags will be all placed there. And then the group will then either talk out or at least know what subjects to steer clear of. You can also see your purchases and everything like that from anything you've made in the or purchased from the marketplace. And the last one here is gameplay. This is going to affect how your system actually handles Alchemy. We've given you some things to help with performance and basically like lag or anything like that. So if your computer seems to be slowing down or maybe Alchemy isn't responding as fast as you'd like, you can swap these on and off kind of due to your system requirements. Having everything on obviously will run your system a little bit harder. So that way, if you feel that it's going and it's getting a little bit sluggish, you can go in here and turn these things off. Things like motion, which means that if there's a motion overlay, by turning it off, it just makes it a static overlay. There is a slight blur effect in the journal. We'll go over the journal here in a second. There's a slight blur effect in the journal that kind of makes it look like you're looking through a piece of glass, which is really neat. And then you have small things like enabling anti-aliasing. And another one of these things that actually has a really big impact is this high resolution tactical mode. If you have that turned on, when you zoom all the way in, like super close to your tokens, it'll still look really, really crisp. And if you turn it off, it'll look a little bit more jagged. It still looks fine, but it'll also take a big load off of your system. We also have this WebGL power performance thing here, which means that if you are running your game on, let's say, a laptop or something like that, if you place it on default, it's just going to use your system's default battery usage power. And if you find that your fans are turning on, or let's say, for instance, you're running on battery and your battery is draining quickly, if you just push low power here, your system will dramatically shift into not using as much resources in order to run the game, and your battery life will kind of extend. So now that we have all that taken care of, we're going to go ahead and activate a couple of these so that we can see them, and click OK. So we have our safety and we have our gameplay settings set the way we want them. Next thing we're going to do is go ahead and join the game. Now we're prompted to join the game here, but we can set things up right off the bat. So on the top right, you can see audio settings. So if there's music playing and it's blasting your ears off, you can already go ahead and change the audio settings to your liking. Right here on the middle, or in the middle, you'll see that I have access to my microphone that I can turn on or off. And I also have access to my camera. Let's see. Hi. Then also you can join the game, of course. You'll see here on the bottom right is a help icon. If you click on that, it'll bring up our little help center. If, for instance, you're running into issues, or if you find that you are confused about a certain something, you can go in here and search that thing and it'll find it. More than likely, we have already got an Alchemy Guide video on it that you might find useful, so you can go ahead and click there. But there's a lot of helpful stuff here on the bottom right. If you join the game, and let's go ahead and turn everything off just in case. Let's join the game. If you join the game, you'll see that you're instantly brought up to a character creation area. So basically, it's asking you, pick your character or create your character. Now, you can create your character right off the bat right off the bat from scratch, meaning that I'm just going to go ahead and click a few things to get us going. But this is kind of how we are doing this. So name is just going to be name. And once you click OK, you're brought up with a blank character sheet. Now, this blank character sheet means that I need to go in and fill out the whole thing, making sure that I'm, using all the correct stats that I want to use and everything like that. The description, the spells, equipment, and all that good stuff. So that's kind of how you would go about creating your own character. And this would be good for maybe a session 0 or something like that. But let's say, for instance, we want to jump right into the action. Well, I'm going to go ahead and delete this character. And by doing so, it's going to toss us back out to the start game screen. And whenever I click join again, it will pop up with this. And I'm going to go ahead and instead of clicking create, I can go to pre-mades or I can go to library. The reason library is here is because if you have access to, well, let's say, for instance, we're using Tales of the Valiant. If you have access to Tales of the Valiant via you purchased the module, you'll be able to create a Tales of the Valiant character before you even join the game. Now, here you can see that the pre-mades have already been made for me, whether these be the pre-mades that Alchemy made or the pre-mades that your GM made, it'll all show right here. So we're going to go with a character that's already been made, and we'll go ahead and choose a spellcaster that is a dwarf wizard. Let's do it, Unthar. And we have the entire character sheet ready to go. Now, I'm not going to go over everything you need to know here in the character sheet. That's going to be a whole different video. But if you look, you can see all your stats have been entered in, any trackers that you might be needing for this character, every one of your features that you might have, the spells that they have equipped, and the equipment that they currently have on them. Once you kind of get a good idea of what your character is, you can click OK, and you are ready to play the game. So the first thing we need to know is pretty basic stuff. Right here in the center of the screen, we have a few things. We have our HP, which when you click on it, you can go ahead and lower or make it, you can raise it up. You can have XP if you wish to run a game that has XP. And of course, it shows your name and your subclass and all that good stuff. But if you click on it, that's how you bring up your character sheet. Now, this is just the view module, which means that it shows you everything you need to know, but you're not going to be able to edit the sheet. So you just kind of can get a good quick look at everything, what you have equipped, all your stats, all your spells, descriptions, whatever it might be. But if you want to go ahead and edit something, let's say, for instance, you need to change some of your stats or something else changes, you can just click this little icon on the top left. And by doing that, you can edit your sheet. Now, whenever you edit your sheet, make sure that you always click this check mark. Make sure you always click the check mark no matter what if you make changes to anything on Alchemy. So go ahead and click that check mark at the bottom, and we are good to go. Now, at the top of this area here, you'll see that this is the title of the scene and the subtitle of the scene. Now, here, you'll see by clicking into it, you can actually see what is in the scene. So you can see the music that's playing. You can see that there's a tactical map employed. And here you can also see that this cover is made by Hugh Pindur. And this is a credit section. So essentially a GM can set up a scene and allow the entry of credits. So that way you can see who made that artwork or who made that music or whatever. They can even link out to those separate things so you can credit the artist, which is really cool. If you go to the top left, you will notice our journal. So you have the journal here. That's where you can type in your notes, or you can type in your messages. You can roll dice. You can do a lot of things. And in there, you'll see that's where everything kind of populates. So if I click on a few things, this is kind of where everything populates, right? If we use an action, all this good stuff will show up here in the journal. You can type things like /roll, /me, /whisper, and all that good stuff within the journal. You can also add any attachments or anything like that that you want in the journal directly from here, and it'll pop up there as well. If you go to the top left again, you'll see notes. Now, these notes are private. These are private notes for you, and these notes will persist through sessions. So if I say, for instance, I'm making a note, I can say I made a note. It'll also date it for you so that you know which session or what day that note came through. Now, for instance, if I type something out and I need to edit it, I want to go ahead and right-click it, edit it. I'm making a note. Oops. I need to edit. Edit it. There we go. There. That's how you do it. So right-click, enter, and you're good to go. And you can do that with any of the notes that you make. Once you are done taking notes, or if you want to go back to the journal, just click journal again and it'll propagate up again. Moving down to the bottom left section, you have your actions. Actions are how you do things essentially in Alchemy. So here you see that I have my weapon attacks. I have things like an unarmed strike and everything like that. These are all propagated from what I have equipped. So I have a torch and a staff equipped. So I have a torch attack. I have staff attack and all that stuff. Those things kind of come from that. Now, if you wanted to, you can drag and drop these around to reorder them however you'd like. But also, you can activate them by either right-clicking and using, or you can click and drag and drop this. If you're playing maybe, let's say, for instance, D&D or Tales of the Valiant, you can roll with advantage or disadvantage. And all I'm doing is holding my click in and dragging up or down. So if I want to roll with advantage, I click, hold, drag up, and I roll with advantage. Look at that, natural 20, easy. So with that though, you can see that there are many actions. You can add an action and create one yourself if you wanted to, and you can create the action there. Spells are for spellcasters, obviously, and you can see that we have a bunch here. Now these spells, you can either view them and see what they are so that you can know what you're casting, or you can just right-click cast and it'll be sent here. Now, if you send to journal, what that will do is it will send the card to the journal, and you can actually click the card and kind of give everybody the opportunity to see what that move does. But if you just cast it, it will just, or I'm sorry, if you just, cast it, it'll just use it in the journal. Now you can prepare it or unprepare it, so that way you know whether or not you have those spells prepared. Also, you have access to things like spell slots. So here you can see your spell slots to say whether or not I've got 4 spell slots, or maybe you want to use your spell slots in a way by clicking up and down on this little pip tracker. That tells you how many spell slots you have left and or how many you've used, all that good stuff. Here are the skills. So for instance, if you need to make a skill roll, you can go ahead and find them here. You'll find your attributes either on the left, or if you're playing another game, they might be on top, vertically and or horizontally. And then you have access to your skills here, and your skills for this one here, you can see if you are proficient in something or not. You can just click this little dot here and it should add your proficiency to your total there. If you need to use any of your skills or roll a skill, you either right click and check it, or of course you can check and drag with advantage or disadvantage in the middle, just like you did before. Now, if you wanted to do a save versus a check, you go over to your attributes, and let's say they need a strength save. I right click, and instead of check, I have save. I click save, and there you go. Now, if I click the save, I can also drag to modify it the same way I did with a skill check. If you need to view what a skill does or make any changes to that skill, you can right click it and go to view, and it'll give you the options to add any bonuses such as expertise or maybe additional bonuses that you get for whatever reason. And if you need to change the stat directly, you of course go to your character sheet, edit it, and then you can change the stat directly from here. Okay. And then last we have equipment, and equipment on here is done pretty much the same way across all systems. Here you can see that you have your currency, so you can of course raise or lower your currency that way. You can find your items that you have on your person and whether or not they are equipped. So you can have a staff on your person and not necessarily have it equipped. And as you can see here, because I unequipped it, item actions have been removed. And if you look, my staff no longer has actions here. But if I click into it and equip it, you'll see that they've been added. So if you find that maybe you're not finding your weapon's actions, it's probably because you don't actually have it equipped. So make sure that you click this little dot next to it to equip those things. If you need to lower the quantity of something, let's say, for instance, you have 10 torches, you can go to view and edit it. And you can say, now I have, we'll say we use 8 torches, and it'll lower that number for you. You can organize your backpack just the same way by dragging and dropping, the same exact way you did with your actions and so on, to make it a lot easier for yourself. That is pretty much it when it comes to actions and equipment and spells and skills here on the bottom left here. Moving around, you have the central area at the bottom. Now you have the central toggle, which is our fabulous button here at the bottom here. If you click this button, it'll bring up your dice table essentially. So basically right here, you have all the dice that are relevant to the game you're actually playing. Now, if you're playing a different game, this may look a little bit different, but you activate it the same. To roll a certain amount of dice, all you need to do is left click and a number counter will be seen at the top above it. Now, if you want to make essentially like a dice pool of stuff, you can just continue clicking, and then once you're all done, you can click roll. If you need to lower an amount, you can right click versus left click, and it'll actually lower it as well. So once you're done, you click roll and you're good to go. We also give you the option in this game here to drag and modify your D20. So if you want to just roll a random D20 with advantage, you can do so as well. Clicking out of that, you have the option to change and or mute yourself here by clicking the mute button. And then you have the options button, this little cog. By clicking the options button, you have a bunch of stuff, right? I talked earlier about this help thing. This help thing right here, this little help icon on the bottom right. If it's in the way or you don't want it to show during your game, that's fine. All you need to do is click this cog button at the bottom and click hide help, and that'll be hidden for you so it's not in the way. Now, if you need it again, pop it up with show help and you're good to go. Then you have what's called Zen mode, which is really neat and really immersive in the way of getting all this stuff out of the way and just kind of giving you what the GM is showing on screen. So if you go into Zen mode, you'll see everything kind of scoots out of the way and it kind of clears the area for you to play. If there's a map, you can still access the tactical mode on the top left, or I'm sorry, on the top right. And all your other stuff, like maybe your camera, your search, and audio settings, those are all still there. If you need to return back to all your stuff, you can either click Zen mode, or you can use the keyboard shortcut Control-Shift-Z, and that will pop everything in and out for you accordingly. If you want to continue on past Zen mode, we have the X card. The X card is something that we use as a reactive safety tool. So for instance, if there's something happening in game that you are not appreciative of, or you don't like, or maybe perhaps it passes one of your lines or veils, you can toss up this X card. And by doing so, it will send an anonymous message to everybody on the in the game, and it'll pop up in the center top area, and it'll show saying like, hey, someone is uncomfortable with the content at hand, and they all have to click OK in order to exit off the screen and do anything else. It's an anonymous message, so that way making sure that everybody is safe at the table and that everybody's comfortable. And by clicking that, it'll just say the card has been sent anonymously. With that, we have the actual safety tools, and you saw how we set those up before. Here, you can see how they're shown. Now, if there's multiple people playing, then we'll have multiple lines and veils all tossed into the same area. Content warnings specifically are set up by the GM, and if there are any content warnings about the game that they are trying to run, that is where they will show up. The GM will set up those content warnings prior to even showing up to the game. Next up is the gameplay settings. Now, we went over to gameplay settings before before we even joined the game, but let's say, for instance, we got in and realized whatever's happening on screen is actually more intense than we thought, so we can actually go ahead and now disable those things that we had activated before in order to help our performance on the platform. And the last thing we have here is the game details. The game details will be created and affected by the GM mostly, such as the name of the game. Maybe they've added a description, whether or not they allow watchers, whether or not initiative is automatically rolled, so you don't have to worry about rolling initiative. Maybe private GM roles, so that all GM roles are private and you don't see what they roll. Whether or not you have access to search functions, like this little spyglass up here. This is our universe search, our omni search, so that you can search articles or characters or anything like that. There's also the effect of saving the journal messages through games. So for instance, all the things we've been doing in journal, if we leave the game and come back, all those journal messages will be saved. Now, if you build up a massive pile of journal messages, thousands of journal messages big, it might start to slow down the game a bit. And if they have this unchecked, that means every time you leave the game and or come back into the game, it clears the journal for you to avoid any kind of slowdown. Then, of course, whether or not voice and video chat has been activated. So if you are using voice and video, these will be on. The player section just kind of shows you who is here in the game. The content section shows you what kind of content has been activated for the game. And of course, you have your safety tab just like before. That's pretty much it for the bottom section of the game. On the bottom right section of the game, you have access to two things. You have your trackers and you have your handouts. You have luck and exhaustion here for these trackers, but you can always add your own different trackers. Maybe your character likes to rage, or maybe your character has something that they track. Maybe it's ammunition or something like that. You can easily track it right here, either by a pip or a something like a bar or something like this. You can put that over here in your trackers. If the GM shares a tracker, so for instance, there is a global tracker that's been shared, trackers right here is where it will pop up. You can, of course, add your own tracker and all that good stuff. You can move them around by dragging and dropping, and that's pretty much it for trackers. The next one is handouts, and as you can see, there's no handouts here. But had there been a handout shared, this is where it will be located. So let's go ahead and hand out a handout, and then we will see it on our screen that a handout has been given to us. If you look here, you can click into it and you can manipulate it by clicking and dragging. You can zoom in, zoom out with your mouse wheel. And if there has been additional information given other than just the image, you can see here on the right side where or what it says. So we have a big area for just text and or just the item. Once you're done looking at the handout, you can click OK. Now, the GM has the option to send that to the journal so that you can view it yourself, or you can just right-click, view it, or click into it to view it and all that anytime you'd like. The top right section of our little tour here, if you go just to the right here, right-hand section, right above the trackers and all that stuff, you'll find voice volume. So if you find that people are talking in-game and you see that they are pretty loud or something like that, you can turn them down or up accordingly. And you can do that for each player or even the GM. Right here, you'll see show video chat. If you have video chat enabled, you will open this up and a little bar will slide over for you. This is where everybody's video will be shown. If your video is not showing, you'll see this little icon here at the bottom. You can activate it and it'll activate. If you are clicking this and nothing is popping up, this little caret right here will show you whichever one you can choose from, whatever camera you can choose from. Now, this is the app, and this is why we have these little carets. If you don't have these little carets, you're probably using the browser. And if you're using the browser, it's just going to use your browser defaults. And usually when you join the game, it'll ask you to access those things to make sure that you have access to them whenever you click these buttons. All right. And so once you're done with that, you can kind of click that on and off if, as you wish with whether or not you want to view the cameras or not. Then you have our Omni search function. So here you can see this little spyglass. Now, whether or not this is here, it's dependent on whether or not the GM has allowed it to be searchable within game. Now, the reason I say they can either turn it on or off is because this is actually, this has access to the entire universe of whatever's been activated in the game. So for instance, Tales of the Valiant, for this one specifically, if I type in article, and it's going to go ahead and pop up with pretty much everything that we have activated. Like I said, even the monsters and monster stats and everything. So again, just be careful. If you are a player and you go into here and you start searching, you can access things that you probably shouldn't be seeing spoiler-wise and all that good stuff. So make sure you're searching up what you need to actually search up, or ask the GM whether or not you need to even search those things. The audio settings, so if music is loud, or if maybe there's sound effects or anything like that, that's loud or soft, not loud enough, you have access to the sound bar here on the top right to adjust the in-game sounds. Next up, you have your tactical mode, and tactical mode here shows the map. Now here, there's no map, but if we switch to a scene that does have one, like this, you'll see that when I click tactical mode, a map will pop up. Now, as you can see here, I have access to a map, but it doesn't look like it's been fully filled out. That's because the GM has used Fog of War. So this Fog of War will cover up pretty much everything that they don't want us to see, right? And as we explore with our token, they will allow us to, or they will kind of uncover things as we go. So here you'll see in tactical mode, we have the opportunity to use Zen mode as well. And that will kind of bring everything out of the way, so that way you get a better look at everything, including your tokens and or the ability to use the map. If you want to use a ruler, you right click and drag, and that will give you access to a ruler. While you are right clicking, if you left click, you can kind of set up a route or a route, and it will add up all the movement in between. So it gives you a little bit more complex movement. If you need to ping, or you need to tell people where you're at, you can left click and it'll give you a nice ping, and it'll give it a sound effect as well. That little sound effect will kind of let people know that there's a ping on the map. If you find that when you move a token around that it's locking into places that it shouldn't, you can show or hide grid. So if it's locking into places, it usually means that this grid here is on. So if you turn it off, this will allow freedom of movement. And you can see if I have the grid activated, it finds the nearest spot for you. And then if you don't have the grid activated, you can use it to freely move your token wherever you wish. And if you turn that grid back on and then kind of readjust your token, it will kind of pop into the nearest grid grid position. If you click into your token, you can see that you also have the ability to rotate it. So if you click your tokens, this little icon up top will propagate, and then you can take it and spin it however you wish. So you can rotate your tokens if you need to. You can also, of course, view your token or your character by clicking into it and viewing, or you just, of course, as always, click into your central icon there. All right, so let's say, for instance, we want to actually move in now that the fog has been shown, and we move into an area that is fogged up. Well, our GM can actually go in now and reveal some stuff to us. So we can kind of go in and show, oh, here's the things that you can see. So our fog is essentially a paint on, paint off tool where you can add and subtract fog accordingly. And then the GM will reveal or hide things as necessary from the players. Now here you can continue moving on and keep doing your thing and reveal things as you go. But by using your actions here, by moving your token and everything, you can go ahead and have your full-on game experience through tactical mode. Now, if you ever need to, for whatever reason, or the GM tells you, hey, we're okay, we're done with the tactical map, you can just click out of tactical mode and re-enter story mode. And by doing so, that'll take you back out to whatever scene is currently activated. And the last thing we need to talk about here is if there are any NPCs in the scene that you can see or have access to as a player, the GM will either show them or share them with you, whatever it might be. You'll go ahead and see them in the NPCs tab, excuse me. And in the tab here, you'll see that I have access to the NPCs. Now you'll see that I only can click into it and see that their picture and kind of what NPC they are, maybe their name or something like that. But this character's description has not been revealed. Now, if the GM gives me access to that character, so for instance, if I go in and give access to the character through the GM, I can share or they can share the character with you. And now that I have been shared that character, you'll see a little play symbol next to it. That means that I can play this character. So now when I view this character, I have access to the full stat block, including all the moves and all the details and everything like that. And if I wanted to actually play that character, I could right click and play it. And this will give me access to all their actions, their skills and equipment, just as if I was a GM playing this character or anything like that. I have access to their health, their XP, everything I need. This is really great for people who have familiars, or maybe they have followers or something like that you want your characters to have access to, or you want the players to have access to. And once those things have been shared to you, you have access to edit them and use them as you wish. You can even move those tokens around on the map if you have access to them. So for instance, I have my tactical map and I can see that they're down here. I can move these tokens now that I have access to them and I've been shared these tokens. The last thing I'll go over in the NPC panel here is the fact that if you are about to enter into combat, a switch can be toggled on. And if that switch is toggled on, you can see on the top right, a countdown timer will start. That means that initiative has begun and you have been given the option here in the middle to roll initiative. If you're given that option, you can go ahead and click that button and your initiative will be rolled and you'll be placed in the initiative order. If there is a game that doesn't require initiative or anything like that, you should automatically be tossed into the encounter. And if the GM also has the option that automatically roll initiative in their option panel activated, you don't have to hit this button in the center. They just need to activate the encounter and you're automatically going to be tossed right here into the initiative order. Once they are done with their turn, they click a little down arrow and it'll become your turn and this clock will reset. If you see this little star here, this indicates the top of the round. So this is the first person to act in a round. When that person comes back up at the top, that means that the round has restarted. And that's pretty much it when it comes to the game experience for a player. So hopefully you learned a little bit about how to create your account, how to actually join a game, and the actual how to play a game in Alchemy, the location of all the different things of the in-game experience. Don't forget that at any point you can click on that little help symbol on the bottom right, and you can search up anything there. And normally we even have an Alchemy guide attached to it so that you can watch a video of me explaining that thing in depth. So if you have any questions about this video in particular, don't forget to go ahead and leave a comment below. Like and subscribe if you find that you like these alchemy guides. We put them out pretty often to try and help you understand how to use the platform better. So that's it for now. I appreciate you guys joining me for another alchemy guide, and I will see you on the next one. Bye, everybody.